that which is cosmic awareness is now available and would ask for you to proceed.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome, awareness. We appreciate your presence with us today for the Rainbow Phoenix membership session of July 29, 2014. Will Berlinghoff is the interpreter for your messages. John Mills is the questioner and energizer. The law of light, the law of love, and the law of unity have been invoked. Is there an opening message or any event you would like to discuss at this time, please?
There are no opening messages from this awareness at this time. It would prefer to proceed into the questions.
Thank you. Could you offer an update on the Ukraine and Russia situation at this time, please?
That events still are escalating, that the agenda of those in power from the West is being played out, accusations being made, a smear campaign underway still to sully the Russian president and the Russian people, to paint them in the darkest of shades as one who has little concern about the welfare of others and who will not stop doing what he is doing, this mainly in terms of supplying weapons to the insurgents in the eastern part of the country of the Ukraine. But there is no balancing here. There is no reflection on the actions of the Western nations. No one is asking who is supplying arms to the Ukrainian forces. No one is asking who is supplying arms to other forces in conflict around the world, other extreme rebel groups in countries such as Syria and Iraq. It is as if the whole focus of those who are hosting this smear campaign is to make it look as if Russia and Russia alone follow such a practice, when it is well known that most of the weapons used in world conflicts come from the United States of America, come from Great Britain and the United Kingdom, and come from Western powers. This is how it is played. This is what spin doctoring is all about. Therefore, for those who watch the news about this event, the downing of this civilian airliner, and the events that are underway at this time, that this awareness would remind one and all to always ask the questions, to look for the discrepancies, to ask, indeed, who is being advantaged by this process, who is being honest and who is being dishonest, who is best served by painting Putin and Russia in the role of criminal and dark ones, the role of enemy. And furthermore, this awareness would also ask one to look at the actual situation of the crash site and how it is still inaccessible to foreign investigators and certain foreign security forces that are there to secure the site. Much is made of the insurgents' role in matters, these rebels who are fighting the Ukrainian forces. Yet this awareness would point out that the crash site could have been secured if the Ukrainian forces had not gone forward with their attack against insurgent-held bases and cities and towns. That they have the power also to cease hostilities and to allow the international investigators and crew into the site to secure it and to do the investigation. Yet it is Ukrainian forces that are active in their battle against the insurgents, who are taking the battle to the insurgents. This awareness is simply pointing this out, for this point is not often made obvious when one is watching controlled media coverage. All of the focus is on the insurgents and what they are doing to cause a hostile situation, of how dangerous it is in that area because of the insurgents, the rebels, those who consider themselves freedom fighters and not rebels, not terrorists at all. This is how the news is spun. And therefore this awareness brings attention to this matter, so that when one is viewing this matter, this incident, one has a more balanced perspective and can see matters differently. Indeed, when one truly reaches this balanced perspective and is asking the questions, it is much easier to predict who will do what to attain their goals that serve them best. That it is obvious that there is something behind the actions of those Western nations that is seeking an advantage, that is seeking to portray Russia and its leader as devil incarnate nation, evil and dark, so that there is a justification for future actions planned already many years ago. That this awareness has spoken enough on this matter for now, and again simply asks that individuals ask the question and look at the whole picture, in order that they do not get dragged into a cult-like following of certain ones who are assigned leadership roles at this time, these being the leaders of the Western nations, the oligarchy who rules the world at this time. Many are breaking free of this. Russia and China are breaking free, but this is for another discussion. That this awareness would now speak also on the conflict between Israel and Gaza against the Palestinian people. That this too is a contrived event with an ulterior motive. That this too is an event that has much spin doctoring of the news. That the Israeli forces, the Israeli government, are trying to make their actions look justifiable, that they are claiming that it is Hamas that is provoking them, that is making them do what they are doing. It is similar to the one who has done something wrong and then claims that the devil made me do it. That in this case the devil or devils are the Hamas forces, and that these devils are using the innocent people as a shield, and that because they are doing this and they are still launching missiles into Israel, that the Israeli forces must respond, must attack these ones in order to shut them down, in order to close the tunnels that have been used for decades against Israel. These tunnels are not only for the purpose of invading Israel and putting forces into Israel. These tunnels have been used mostly to bring supplies and even weapons into this restricted and controlled area. And there is even an argument that it would be advisable to shut down these tunnels. But at the same time, this is more an excuse for the Israeli forces to go in and to eradicate the many who are potential enemies. That it is known that certain ones in power in the Zionist-led power structure of Israel would and do relate to their own history as the Jewish people suffering under the hands of the fascist Nazis and the Holocaust that occurred to the people. This has long been used as a foil against any criticism of the Jewish nationalists, the Israeli Zionists, those who are using their own people as justification for aggression and Holocaust against their enemies. It is now becoming quite obvious that the claims of those in power in Israel that the devil is making them kill innocent children, innocent women, innocent men in the Gaza is hollow, is not of a nature that makes sense. It is insanity. And yet many have boarded this vessel, this process of denial against the actions they are carrying out, because they are claiming they have justification, because the devil is making them respond. The Palestinians, the Hamas, are the enemy. They are provoking this response, this extraordinary response of brutality and violence against a people. When will humanity realize that the insane ones are in charge, and that their explanations and justifications are ludicrous and lunatical, are madness indeed, that there is no justification in the mass eradication of hundreds, even thousands of individuals, all for the purpose of claiming that their own state is safe and secure. It will never be safe and secure as long as such actions are taken against these people. That for every child killed, every innocent one slaughtered, a new martyr will arise and be willing to sacrifice themselves for their cause, their purpose. Their purpose is equally insane in that their willingness to eradicate the state of Israel is a plan that itself is lunatic, is madness. And yet these ones too feel justified in their actions, for they, on the opposite side, can certainly point to the mass eradication of so many people as the true evil, the true devil that they are fighting against. And surely it is now time for humanity to see truth here, instead of falling for the propaganda for the spin doctoring. It is up to each individual, again, to ask questions, big questions, deep questions. It is up to the individual to not simply choose one side over another, but to see the actions of both sides as lunacy, as madness, and to see that this is part of a much greater manipulation in human consciousness to push the entire world to the brink of a world war, not only from one location, but from several locations, such as this location in Israel and the Gaza Strip, such as Syria, such as Iraq, such as Russia and the Ukraine, that this is part of an orchestrated effort on the part of those who have so long been in charge and in control to push humanity exactly where it wishes them to be offered up again as fodder for the gods of war, death, and destruction. But it is also different at this time, for the energies of divine spirit are strongly flowing onto the planet at this time. And many are starting to question, many are starting to vocalize. There are many around the world who are not accepting the arguments of Israel that it is justified in its extreme actions against a people, who are calling for this to end, for peace to ensue. There are many who are looking at the present situation in the Ukraine and seeing it in a different light as well. It is indeed an extraordinary time for the observance of such events from not only the point of reference that is given by the controlled press, but also looking at the situation from a greater perspective, a unity perspective that is trying to see the whole picture and not simply one side of a dualistic argument. That this awareness does see the energies as strong and getting stronger for opposition, for sane voices to speak out, for truth to come out. And at this time, when many are being hit by extreme anxiety due to these world affairs and events, that it is the perfect time now to understand that these events are playing themselves out as they need to, that there is manipulation perhaps behind most of these events, indeed all of these events, but there is also the force of the divine that is playing itself out, that is being added to the formula now in ways that have never been experienced previously. Therefore, in conclusion, this awareness would simply state yet again that despite the negative spin that is being put on events, despite the anxiety of a situation that seems so extreme, that it is in the person's own interest, in each individual's own interest, not to go down the dark road, but to hold off, to look at the bigger picture, to ask the questions and observe what is occurring, not from the position of a panicked, fearful individual, but from an individual point of view that gives balance, that gives insight, that gives awareness to what is truly happening in these conflicts and conflicts around the world, on the global level, on the national level, and certainly at the personal level as well. And this awareness is complete in the answering of this question at this time of current events and their implication.
Thank you, Awareness. Could you just touch on what the beef is between Syria and Iraq? Is this the oil situation or something like that?
It is not a beef between Syria and Iraq. It is two separate areas that are in high conflict. At this time, the war in Syria is a continuation of the struggle that has been fueled heavily by outside support even from the United States of America for many of the rebel causes and groups and affiliations. Indeed, when one seeks to understand this matter more deeply and digs more deeply, there is evidence that the Americans are, and this awareness must qualify this, the American people are not the ones referred to. It is referring to those in power, both in government and corporate power, who are funding the rebels, the same rebels that are illegal in the United States, the same rebels that allegedly attacked the United States, that many of these groups have Al-Qaeda affiliation and connections, and yet there is weaponry delivered to them, there is funding delivered to them, there is manipulation of events that are taken and being carried out on their behalf against the regime of the president of Syria, that this event has been long going. The event in Iraq is more recent in that ISIS, the group, this extreme Muslim group, is gaining power. That there is also evidence that the ISIS group, many of the members of the ISIS group, were trained by CIA operatives in locations around the world, including the Sudan, but secret training, of course. And now these ones are battling the existing government, are creating mass violence, death, and destruction. One can look at these matters, these incidents, these events from the level of the reporting on these events from established and controlled news organizations, but one can also see that most of that which is reported and that which is spoken is manipulated and twisted to provide a certain distinct view and to cover up other actions that those behind the scene would rather the people do not see. Generally, all of the energies of death and destruction, of war and chaos and mutilation and murder, is energy of the dark, as it is trying to fulfill its destiny, the timeline destinies that it has seen in fourth dimension. But they themselves are not certain of what will come of this, what will be the final results. They are like rats in a maze that are running the maze, not certain of how to proceed, but certain of certain pathways that they have run over and over, and this pathway is again being pursued. The manipulation of human consciousness, the driving of humanity towards certain expressed goals that the ones who have power have set, that they are indeed working towards. But at the same time, there is a new force the force of the divine itself. It is not perhaps a new force as such, for the divine has always been present, but what is new is the strength and power of the higher energies of spirit that are now entering onto the planet, have begun to accelerate this planet forward. Even those who have long known of the truth of how humanity is controlled and manipulated are seeing this new spiritual force that is coming forward, and that is a direct threat to those in power, for it has the potential of exposing them. It has the power to overthrow them. And therefore, in a manner of speaking, those who have manipulated for so long are desperate now to complete their plans for their own benefit and for the best possible future for them that they could attain, and yet they are uncertain of whether they will be successful. This is the equivalent of deep fear amongst these ones, similar to the fear and anxiety they are creating for the collective consciousness of humanity. The fear for them is that they may lose, that they may not attain their goals, that the people will wake up, that the divine will be successful. Yet they are driven forward like the rats in the maze, for they themselves, if one wishes to understand this in its depth, must do what they must do. They too are part of the grand plan and grand design. And even though they are fearful that they will not be successful, that the sleeping masses will awaken, still they pursue the matters as they have always pursued them. The death and destruction of humanity, the control of the planet being their agenda, as it always has been. It is also a time for those in this unholy legion of the archons, of those who are not connected to spirit, that it is their chance as well to start their own personal journey back into spirit, back into the divine. But this is a different matter. The opportunity is there for the many who have so long controlled and manipulated to make other choices. Unfortunately, many cannot break the training and the breeding of their own ones, and many are committed to the old paths done over and over, those being of death and destruction, war, and chaos. But this is again a deeper issue, a deeper matter that could be examined and understood by those who wish to see the total picture. It is sufficient at this time to simply mention that the world is in a different place now, the energies of spirit much stronger than they have ever been. A new course is being set, and rather than being engulfed and swallowed up by the negative scenarios that are being portrayed on the nightly news, one must look further and see that these events are as they need be, and it is now more a matter of personal choice as to whether one will allow the influence of the negative ones into one's own life, or will choose the higher spiritual energies and understand that this will lead one towards that which is the new dawning of a new consciousness. Whether one chooses the negative or the positive in all matters, worldly, nationwide, or personal, that it is choice now, and this choice is that which will become clearer and clearer to those who seek the answers versus those who simply accept and follow that which is the manipulated truth and reality of one's with a ulterior motive. It is a time of personal choice and thus personal responsibility. There is great hope. There is a brightness to the future seen by this awareness that is much brighter than has been observed for some time on your planet. But it is still a personal journey nonetheless, and still the choice of each and every individual as to what their experience will be on this physical planet in this dualistic system. That this awareness reminds all that it is so now, and leaves all to make their choices. And this completes the answering of this secondary question.